Sierra Wave Media's Bennett Kessler has filed a series of stories for this segment. We'll start off with Los Angeles Department of Water and Power General Manager Ron Nichols. Made a big fuss over Mammoth's Water District hiring a public relations firm to get their water rights story out. Now, DWP, which has used PR firms for years, just put out a new slick publicity video on the Owens Dry Lake. Now, the DWP Public Affairs Director says they paid for it in-house. Now, the some 7-minute video stars LADWP workers and a couple of citizens. Asked about the cost of the video, DWP PR Director Joe Ramallo said, "We have not separately tracked the internal costs for this." Now, the message of the video is LA does not want to use good water on the Owens Dry Lake dust. DWP currently has an appeal pending before the State Air Resources Board on orders to clean up 2.9 square miles more on the lake bed. Now, according to signed agreements and laws, the Great Basin Air Pollution Control District must assess any additional needed mitigation according to state and federal air quality standards. LA still violates air standards in some places on the lake, and that's according to the APCD. Now, the publicity video gives DWP credit for mitigation projects in the Owens Valley and the rewatering of the lower Owens River. The video fails to say that lawsuits by Inyo County and its citizens led to those water projects. DWP's video claims that the Owens Valley, quote, looks like it did 100 years ago, end quote. LA's video also says there are many sources of dust other than that generated by DWP water exports. APCD Director Ted Shady stated that the additional 2.9 square miles of dust is, quote, absolutely 100% from DWP, end quote, activities. Now, Shady repeated that LA has permission to use water, gravel, and vegetation, and it's up to DWP, he said, to choose the method. Now, in response to LA's slick video, Ted Shady shared dust cam and YouTube videos that appear far less attractive than LA DWP shots of the Owens Dry Lake. As Shady said, quote, the greatest hits of dust video, end quote, can be found on Great Basin's website, and you can check out the links on our website, sierrawave.net. Well, partying and peaceful living sometimes just don't jibe. Some condo residents in the North Village in Mammoth Lakes say that's the case with the Hyde Lounge and its loud music from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Mammoth Mountain CEO Rusty Gregory has been dealing with this issue. Now, Gregory said he has talked to one particular resident for more than a year. Gregory said the music does comply with the local noise ordinance, but that the vibrations and noise are transmitted through columns in the structure at North Village. Even though the noise level is not illegal, Gregory said, quote, we acknowledge that the noise is a problem and it's something we're working on in earnest, end quote. Mammoth Mountain brought in sound engineers, which worked for some residents, but not for all. Now, Gregory says he's contemplating use of the Hyde space as a family restaurant instead. Noise, he said, is a small part of the reason. Gregory said he is focusing on families as a market segment and a restaurant that would offer lunches and après-ski. Now, Gregory said the empty space that used to be Old Dubliner and Fever would be designed for a new club. He said he is working with partners at SBE, which own Hyde. The idea would translate into a restaurant/bar and live music. Now, said Gregory, quote, this would create jobs, a better experience for families, plus evening entertainment. The Hyde, Gregory said, may stay where it is. The Mammoth CEO said that Mammoth Mountain and SBE are engaged in a joint venture, but some of the new concepts may solve the problems. The Village, said Gregory, is, quote, an animated urban space. Not every corner is peaceful and quiet. It's not for everybody, end quote. And again, Bennett Kessler filed this report. As required by law, the Inyo County Grand Jury visited all prisons and detention facilities in the past year. Their recently released report says the Inyo County Jail, City of Bishop Police Station, Owens Valley Conservation Camp, and Juvenile Hall were found to be, quote, clean, safe, and well managed, end quote. There were, however, some issues at each facility. Now, the jury recommended more consistent monitoring of those in the Inyo County Jail and Independence for detoxification. The jury called for installation of the new video surveillance system at the Juvenile Hall as a #1 priority when funds become available. The jury also suggested moving ahead with a new fence for the west parking lot, and they said staffing can still be an issue at Juvenile Hall. At the Bishop Police Department, the grand jury suggested painting holding cells, establishing a budget for ultimate relocation of the police department to a larger facility, creating private interview spaces, considering use of more overtime instead of more officers, and installing bulletproof glass for the dispatcher's window. At the Conservation Camp Prison, the jury recommended an awareness program for the public regarding contraband packages. The grand jury reported that the conservation camp inmates have performed more than 100 community service projects in both Inyo and Mono counties. Now, in other grand jury report issues, the jury pressed Southern Inyo Hospital for more detailed accounting of the expenditure of the special tax voted in about 7 years ago. The last grand jury had also asked for this, and this year's jury commended the chief fiscal officer for setting up a separate special tax account. The jury did recommend that the hospital, quote, itemize and formalize monies received and expended through the special tax account, end quote. Now, Southern Inyo Hospital has long struggled to keep going, and hospital district voters had offered strong support with more tax money to the only hospital between Ridgecrest and Bishop. And on another issue, the jury voted unanimously to support the proposal to consolidate county office space. Now, after a tour of county offices, the grand jury found that Inyo County is, quote, in dire need of consolidated office space, end quote. The report says all existing offices have safety concerns, limited space, a lack of privacy for interviews, and no storage. The report said, quote, money is wasted on leased space, tenant improvements, and high utility costs, end quote. Well, Skip Harvey, he loved people, and that's why he ran for the Mammoth Town Council and served there for more than 8 years. Skip Harvey never claimed political sophistication, but before he left the town council, Harvey laid out the cold, hard truth about the failed town. He also had the grace and sensitivity at his final meeting to call the Eastern Sierra enchanting and mystical. Skip Harvey died after a long struggle with cancer Monday morning at the age of 60. Those he loved were with him, and as if to honor his passing, a stunning Sierra Wave sunset painted the sky with unusual beauty Monday evening. Skip and Sierra Wave's Bennett Kessler used to reminisce about being born in Columbus, Ohio. They were both native Midwesterners who found warm and sunny California and finally the mountains of the High Sierra. Harvey found a way to touch a lot of people with his down-to-earth base camp cafe in Mammoth Lakes. Then he reached further to political office. 8 years ago, Harvey came to Sierra Wave Studios to explain that he wanted to represent the people. His humble, caring attitude demonstrated his connection to the public, even when council decisions seemed off base or controversial. On a personal level, Skip quickly became a friend to those who also cared about the wider community. Now, at an early May town council meeting, when officials talked about cutting $3 million more from the town budget, no one spoke the words bankruptcy nor even the $43 million debt, except for Skip Harvey. He gave the voice to the people's real fears. Harvey said he knew the lawsuit debt was the real concern on people's minds. He apologized to the public for not wrapping up the lawsuit issue before he left office. He pressed the need for the town to take responsibility for actions that put Mammoth in a big mess. He advised the town to cut out the arrogance. This has to be changed, he said. And Skip Harvey could talk about all this without ego and without negativity. His candid smile said it all. Skip Harvey was a man with a warm heart and one who bowed to those in need. When he stated his truth, it was without hatred or anger. Funeral services are now scheduled for 3 p.m. Saturday at Canyon Lodge at Mammoth Mountain for Skip Harvey.